Welcome everyone to the Hurting Humanity channel. As the fires devastate Los Angeles, everybody out there is talking about what the source of this is. And it should be very clear that these were deliberately set fires. You could see this based off of surrounding evidence, right? The same surrounding evidence that we see when there is a directed energy weapon, smart meter, explosions, that somehow we're told it's a wildfire, but none of the trees seem to burn to the ground. Maybe people should be building their homes in trees. Maybe we should all have tree houses, and that way we won't have to worry about global warming or our homes burning to the ground. And there is no good to come out of any of these events, but we can only hope that people who used to be closed-minded to what they would think are conspiracy theories would now start to wake up just based on the evidence. Might start saying, you know what? The narrative they're giving us of a wildfire makes no sense. The narrative they're giving us, because the narrative you're going to eventually get is that arson was committed probably by homeless people. That's what I'm starting to feel the narrative might be, that they're going to pin this on some addicts in the streets because the Democrats let them run amok and they started fires and the fires spread because the Santa Ana winds. And of course, the people will suck into that probably more so than they would even the climate narrative. But really here, the reality is directed energy weapons, and smart meters are directed energy weapons. Now, I talked about with Lahaina how all these people were focusing in on blue roofs, and I did some videos on the blue roofs as well, and how directed energy weapons can target specific cars, but it's really the material that's inside of these homes that could actually stop or prevent a directed energy weapon from burning the home to the ground if it was coming, in fact, from the sky. But the focus really needs to be on smart meters as well, because they are directed energy weapons. Okay? These things can hit specific frequencies that could blow your house up. And I covered this 10 days ago, ironically, over on my Nations Conspire channel. I did a video called "This is the Scariest Home Invasion Story to Ever Happen That No One is Talking About." And what I was discussing is the fact that they're slapping these smart meters onto people's homes. Now, this is a good time for everybody out there to go and check and see if you had a smart meter installed on your home, because a lot of people don't realize that they do. Because what the electric companies have been doing is sending things in the snail mail that they know that nobody's going to open and nobody's going to read, where they talk about, well, we're just going to put this thing on, you won't be bothered. The people just look at it, they forget about it, and they go about their day. And 2 months later, while they're at work or they're out, somebody slaps this on the side of their home and they don't even realize it. But you do have the right to opt out of getting these smart meters on your home. And if I was ever to tell you there's 100% something that you should do, I'm not somebody on this channel that tells you what to do or how to live your life. I just show you this stuff and I tell you what my opinion is. I'm not here to judge you on what you like, what you don't like, how you live your life. But you should 100% check to see if you have a smart meter installed in your home, whether it's a smart electric meter, smart gas meter, and get it removed. You have the right to get it removed. They make it difficult for you to get it removed. So I would recommend you call. You tell them that you're getting sick, threaten them that you're going to sue because you're not feeling good. They'll get somebody out there, but they'll threaten you back by telling you that you're going to have to pay a monthly fee of $20 or $30 to have somebody come out and check your meter. And they pretend like the whole purpose of the smart meters is so that they don't have to have human beings go and check your meters anymore. The whole purpose is so they have control over your smart meter. So they could do things like this: send frequencies to the smart meter to ignite your home. Or the other thing I talked about with the climate initiative, which is part of the plan with the carbon footprint, is to be able to control your home and how much electricity you use a month. So in other words, rationing your electricity. They have control over it. They put in climate laws. All of a sudden, you don't realize you have a smart meter on your home. Suddenly, they're shutting off your electricity every night at 8 o'clock like a prisoner, and then telling you, well, you know, you got the smart meter now. These are the new laws. This is the way it's going to be. And then you just start getting accustomed to it. And next thing you know, you're living like you committed a felony in a prison cell. Okay, that's what their plan is. So they will make it difficult for you, but I would guarantee, $30 a month, anything along those lines to get this off your home. Think of the pros and cons, And if you think it's a conspiracy, I'll prove to you that it's not, like I did in that video about the scariest home invasion story, because it really is the scariest home invasion story. They're slapping these things on people's homes, and we live in a time period where people just trust the big companies, right? But don't trust your neighbor because they vote differently than you. Don't trust somebody who looks differently than you, but trust the corporations, right? Well, the corporations are the ones who are dividing you from your neighbor. The corporations are the ones who are trying to set your home on fire. And we can all take a look back to the Paradise fires that occurred almost 7 years ago, back in 2018. These fires were started via directed energy weapons, via the smart meter. Lawsuits were filed against Pacific Gas and Electric Company, PG&E, for its role in the fire. And guess what? Compensation was given to the people who suffered, whether their homes burned or they lost loved ones, because they were guilty for being responsible for these fires starting. Now, you won't hear about it being a smart meter specifically, because the media will only cover this by talking about how, oh, well, there was faulty wiring, there was faulty this. This is directly from the smart meter installations being put on these homes, including stories that I've covered in the last couple of years of houses randomly blowing up in suburban towns across America, Pennsylvania. Remember the house that just blew up randomly that was all over the news, and people were like, how does a house blow up? Like there's a bomb in the house. And then they try to, oh, there's coal mines underground. Huh? No, the house blew up because it had a smart meter on it. Frequencies were either sent deliberately to that home or it malfunctioned and it blew up the home. But this is what's going on around North America right now. People are oblivious to what's actually happening. They've been trained to fight off people like me and you who are trying to wake them up to the dangers of this technology, to the dangers of these wicked people who are no different than psychopaths like Ted Bundy or Jeffrey Dahmer. Would you let Jeffrey Dahmer put a smart meter on your home if he came to your door? He said, hey, I want to put this on your home. You'd be like, what? Is that Jeffrey Dahmer at my door? I thought you were dead. Well, what are you doing here? Well, I'm alive. I'd like to put this smart meter on your home, make things easier for you. Would you say, sure, Jeff, put it on my home? No, you wouldn't. So why are you letting these people put them on your home? Because they have a little corporate, they have a company logo and you don't see the face behind it. And you think, oh, well, they wouldn't do that, right? They wouldn't do that. They wouldn't try to burn LA to the ground so they could bring in smart city governance. No, well, of course they would. So these are clips that aired on affiliate news stations back about 10, 15 years ago about smart meters. And of course, they won't air anything now because, again, at the time when smart meters were starting to go up, some of these stories were coming out. And again, local affiliate news, you're going to get a mixture of real stories, local stories with national stories. That's done by design. Because when you get the local stories in there, subconsciously you start thinking of the news as real. So in other words, if your neighbor does something, commits a crime, it's going to make the news. It's going to make the local news. It probably make national news if it's a really big crime that fits a narrative, right? So it makes you automatically start thinking that the news is actually real. Well, these stories are being reported because people's homes were catching fire. People were doing those, small local, Channel 2 News in Saskatchewan is going to go out and check this guy's house caught fire. His meter blew up. Well, we better go look at it. Let's do a little investigation. Then, of course, PG&E and other electric companies and Big Brother get wind of the fact that these stories are out there, and they either scrub them off the internet or they say, don't you ever, ever talk about these smart meters again. Don't you ever cover this again. And then you don't hear boo about it. And we haven't heard boo about smart meters in about 10 years or so, other than the PG&E lawsuit filed by the victims of the Paradise Fire. And you don't hear about the smart meter directly with that by design. And that also isn't something that makes national news, only local news right outside of Paradise, California. So for anybody out there that thinks it's a conspiracy, you tell me, would you like to have this near your head? Not just the EMF frequencies, but the potential to melt your home? I mean, wouldn't you say it's time to come out of the left-right paradigm and stop thinking that things are a conspiracy and start realizing that these wicked people who have divided us have sinister plans for all of us, and this technology is a part of those sinister plans? Look at this.
As flames climbed the side of their Kerman home, the Sandoval family escaped to a neighbor's home, and firefighters determined this is where it started. A few months later, in September 2015, another fire started in a similar spot at this Fireball home. And Jose Valdez says he had a sinking suspicion that day.
A month before the house caught on fire, PG&E had came and left us a little flyer to say they were going to come out and install a new smart meter in our house.
Valdez says he and his family cleared out of the house safely, and they could only watch the flames spread from the side of their garage.
This is the charge for my neighbor's car that was burned here.
While firefighters doused the house in water, they say they also noticed several people from PG&E. Valdez says one of them removed the smart meter while the house was still burning. Fireboss Fire Chief saw the same thing, and he says his investigation concluded the fire was most likely caused by a problem in the electrical panel.
And that problem with the electrical panel, in my belief, was the smart meter that was installed in the panel by PG&E.
The Valdez family and the Sandovals are both suing PG&E, claiming smart meter malfunctions set their homes on fire. And they're not alone. The electric company is facing at least 5 similar lawsuits statewide. Its representatives deny any liability and say they stand behind the safety of the company's smart meters.
A faulty CPS electrical meter is to blame for a house fire this morning. A malfunction caused the meter to explode and start sparking around 2:30 on West Wildwood. Firefighters were able to get into the home's attic and stop the fire from spreading. The family will be displaced until the fried meter is repaired.
Nearly every home in the metro has one, but the devices used to track your electricity could suddenly catch fire and put you and your family at risk. 41 Action News investigator Andy Alcock uncovered the possible hidden danger and went to get answers from KCP&L.
Kansas City Power and Light is at the tail end of a 2.5-year project to install more than 700,000 smart meters across the metro like this one. It's a small part of the billions of dollars utilities have invested across the U.S. in smart meters. But there are serious concerns one Kansas City man experienced firsthand. The burn marks are visible on Waverly Galbraith's Kansas City home. Here's what's left of the smart meter where the July fire started. These pictures show what his house looked like after the fire. Galbraith wasn't home when it started.
I got a call from a neighbor that said he said my house was on fire. But when I arrived, I found out that the meter had exploded.
A Kansas City Power and Light spokeswoman says the utility is investigating the fire, but she says this type of issue is rare in this area. KCP&L Vice President Chuck Casely's statement says, in part, out of more than 700,000 meters KCP&L has installed, we are only aware of a handful of meter malfunctions. There are multiple smart meter makers and different models. The company KCP&L uses has had past issues in other places. Despite few problems here, hundreds of thousands of smart meters have been recalled in the last several years across North America. And hundreds of fires have broken out, including in California, Texas, Florida, Nevada, Illinois, and across Canada.
It really is a very dangerous issue and should be treated as a real unprecedented emergency in your area.
Professor Curtis Bennett is in an ongoing Canadian legal battle over smart meters. Bennett sent us these thermal images showing a dangerous meter connection running too hot and a normal one.
Now you've got this plastic piece of junk on their property, and that's actually what's burning inside that meter base with the wires.
But Casely says KCP&L has had a total of 6 problems out of more than 700,000 meters. The utility has returned a couple meters which have overheated to their supplier. California insurance adjuster Norman Lamb currently has 7 open smart meter fire claims. Of the dozens of smart meter fires he's investigated, he says overheating is the major issue.
Sparking. They are manufacturing too much heat.
Why would America's utilities spend billions of dollars to install smart meters? The old ones with the dials, called analog meters, only recorded electricity usage. Smart meters transmit your usage information to the power company. Canadian Brian Thiessen has spent hundreds of hours over 5 years researching smart meters. He's produced a video.
These fires are going to continue to happen because, again, the basic laws of electricity are being violated.
But KCP&L's statement says, at this point, we have found nothing that leads us to believe there is a problem or safety issue with the new meters. Galbraith has a different take. He was without power for over a month after his home's smart meter fire. He says he's lucky the wood-shingled home didn't go up in flames. Should homeowners be concerned in your judgment?
I think so. I really do.
About 2,700 homes near Mahwah, New Jersey have the state's first smart power meters, the latest gadget used by utilities to track how often the lights are on.
The smart meter is essentially a mini computer, if you will.
Unlike meters on most homes, smart meters send data from your home back to the power company every 15 minutes. Utilities don't just learn how much power you use, but can be alerted in real time to an outage caused by bad weather. The smart meter's ability to talk back to the utility has some people concerned information about their lifestyle and habits at home could fall into the wrong hands.
we will not be able to understand or tell what appliances are being used within the home, how much each appliance has consumed as far as energy goes.
Rockland Electric's a subsidiary of Orange and Rockland and say this is good. Some consumer groups disagree.
I don't know what their capabilities are. We do know that some smart meters produce data that has enough granularity that experts are able to go in and tell what kind of appliances people are using.
Despite concerns from groups like the ACLU, the utility says it's built cybersecurity into the meters and the software that runs them. But information's still being gleaned.
They're building a profile on the consumer, not only their usage, but the time of day.
Rockland Electric says its privacy policy prohibits building consumer profiles or selling a customer's data. Clark Foraker, CBS 2 News.
And New Jersey Assemblyman Ronald Dance has sponsored legislation that would force utilities to reveal what type of data they keep and which third parties would have access to it.
So that's obviously frightening, and I covered that again in my previous video. And these are things that people need to know about. If you have a smart meter, get it off your home immediately. You could sit there and you could say, well, they're not going to target me. I live in little Timbuktu. Oh, yeah? It starts in places like LA. It starts in places like Lahaina. And then it just spreads to smaller areas. The plan is to wipe the entire thing out and build it back up. Remember, build back better, right? What do you think part of the plan is and how they plan on doing it? And that doesn't mean that every single home's going to get hit with a smart meter, explosion like this. We know they have directed energy weapons they can use from their satellite balloons. We know that there's a lot of things that they can do. But frequencies are the name of the game. And if you look at the fires in California, you'll notice that they were just jumping house to house. We've been trained now since the last couple of fires to, not us who are awake and look at this stuff, but the majority of people have been trained to see these overhead aerial shots where everything is just gone except for the trees, and to think that that's normal. It's not normal. It's not at all normal. The houses are completely gone. It looks no different than if a bulldozer came through and bulldozed all the homes to the ground, or if they did a controlled demolition. And you would look at it and you'd say, oh, they blew that whole town up. Now they're going to build big corporate offices there. Yeah, because it was controlled. It was done on purpose. The trees are still standing up by design. The fires were jumping house to house because they had the ability to do that. Because most of them, if not all of them, especially in California, a state where, they're not going to deny the smart meter. They'll think it's a crazy conspiracy, right? So they all had them on their homes. So the fires were clearly jumping home to home. It looks like a controlled detonation, doesn't it? Looks a lot like something that was deliberately done. Anyone out there that thinks that it wasn't, it's time to wake up to the reality. You can ignore these things and think that they won't happen to you, or you could wake up and realize that there is a conspiracy going on. It's a conspiracy against the people. And these people have sickening plans for all of us. And if you turn a blind eye to these things, if we all turn a blind eye to these things, they don't go away. They eventually just sneak up on you. So do you want to be aware and prepared, or do you want to pretend like it's not happening until it actually comes to your front door? That's up to you. But it starts with coming out of the left-right paradigm. It starts with taking the training that they've ingrained in you to think that people like me are conspiracy theorists. People like me who have had hundreds of thousands, billions of views over the years, who have been removed from platforms all over the internet because I take you out of the left-right paradigm, have to rebrand the name of the content so people can't find it because they don't want a mass awakening happening. And anybody who keeps you out of the left-right paradigm, those are the people that are getting censored. People who are showing you the dangers of this technology, those are the ones getting censored. People who are showing you what the nefarious plans are of these people, including the Club of Rome and this whole Canada and North American Union and how these things are all planned. Those are the people getting silenced. The alt-right media pretends that they're being silenced while keeping you sucked in this. They aren't going to go out there and talk about smart meters and the dangers of smart meters, because the same people who are funding those shows and those operations are the same people who are running those companies and corporations. It's controlled media. So become aware of this stuff. This technology is not advancing us. It's to enslave us and have the ability to do these types of things to all of us. It's time to come out of her. It is time to wake up. In some senses, it is time for an uprising, so to speak. No pun intended. I thank everybody for being here. Hope you're all doing well. Make sure you're subbed to my other channel as well that I mentioned earlier, Nations Conspire. I'll leave it linked below. Hope you're all doing well. God bless you and your families as always.